Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Tech Horizons, the podcast where we take a look at the future of construction and property more generally in the Middle East, and with a particular bias towards exploring the technologies and the data and the new methods that are shaping the industry in this fabulously exciting region. My name's Andy Rampton, and I'm the Industry Transformation Leader at Procore. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by someone who knows this space inside out, Roger Wahl, the Chief Technology Officer of Innovo Group. Now, Roger has more than 30 years experience across the US Air Force, GE, several real estate and infrastructure companies. And Roger, you've built a reputation for transforming organizations with a passion for collaboration, technology, and data. It's fantastic to have you with us today. Thank you for giving us your time. I've given you the briefest of introductions there. Maybe we can start by you giving us a few of the highlights of your career and how you ended up in this technology and data space today.
Sure. Thank you so much, Andy. And it's really a pleasure to be here with you today, talking about something that's near and dear to both of our hearts, which is technology and how it can really affect construction, communities, companies, customers in a positive way. So yes, a little bit about me, some of the highlights of my career. 20 years in the Air Force, yes. Looking after technology. One of my first roles in the Air Force was flying on one of the radar planes and doing battlefield management, so we could see the battlefield and signal where the good guys and the bad guys were, let's say, to building one of the first data centers in Doha. So from the Air Force perspective, a lot of technology projects that I had. And then I took a stop through General Electric, and in GE, I was a Six Sigma, Green Belt, Black Belt, really looked after process and automation. And then I really got into the real estate and construction space. I've had a few roles globally now, supporting construction operations and real estate development operations from Toronto to London to Dubai to Sydney, Australia, really across the entire globe. And in those roles, we look, transforming the company internally as well as transforming the industry and the communities externally. So really happy to be here with you today. Looking forward to the discussion.
And we've already spoken a bit before we started recording this podcast about how broad this topic is and all the avenues we could go down. And I'm going to start by asking you about the Middle East. It's as we've already discussed, it's a fantastically exciting place to be. It's so dynamic. Where is the Middle East today in comparison with the rest of the world in terms of its ambition for technology, its uptake of technology through property and construction? Maybe you could give us some context about how the Middle East is delivering its vision for the future using technology and data.
One of the youngest regions for sure when it comes to construction and technology, but advancing very, very fast, faster than any other region from what we've seen. So typically a lot of the construction technology or real estate technology will evolve and come from the United States, from the UK, different regions, but this is the place where it's being adopted. And part of the reason there's really an appetite here, part of the reason for that is the governments are super involved and they want to be in the forefront of all things technology. You think about Dubai and AI incubators, where all of the government is leading incubators, where all the companies come together, and it's kind of directed by the government. We think about quantum computing labs, Abu Dhabi University. So it's like Dubai and Abu Dhabi are kind of racing each other to the forefront of AI, quantum computing, and how it's being executed across the life cycle. And of course, KSA is right there too. We're really already leading the way in the UAE, KSA, and the rest of the region, because we're much more open to actually piloting and trialing these technologies.
Leadership can take many forms. What form does it take really here? Is it more of a structured approach around mandates and regulations and standards, or is it more about setting the flag on the hill and encouraging and investing to get there?
It's very much operational. So you see the government entities and the different companies here that are really participating. So they're leading the way from a regulatory and compliance perspective, sustainability perspective, the guidance they've given from government level down. But they're really putting skin in the game. They're really actually investing in the technologies. They're piloting and trialing them. You see even the government entities are going to events in the UK, in the United States. Dubai is everywhere. Abu Dhabi is everywhere. KSA is everywhere. They're looking at they're very hungry to see the latest technologies and how they can actually execute them.
And I'm going to stick with that point on leadership for a minute before we get into the more of the nuts and bolts of technology. But construction globally is facing some challenges. We're seeing around the world that we have huge skills and resource challenges. We haven't seen any meaningful productivity gains in construction for years, potentially decades. How does that topic of leadership help us address those challenges on an industry scale? And what role can technology and data play in helping us address those broader industry challenges?
Typically in this region, it was more about throwing a lot of labor because labor was quite inexpensive, let's say. Throwing labor at the projects and things like that, expecting rework. So technology wasn't really in the forefront of the discussion for many years. When you look at the value of global real estate, you see that it's more valuable than global GDP plus stocks plus bonds. So it's huge. The opportunity is huge. But at the same time, we're creating 40% of the global carbon footprint, utilizing 30% of the resources. And the labor that was so inexpensive before is now more scarce and more expensive. So something had to change from a sustainability perspective as well as from a labor arbitrage and skill perspective. Plus, with the heavy amount of work being done in KSA, a lot of the skilled resources are leaving the UAE, Egypt, other Middle East and North Africa locations to go there. So there's so much to do. So definitely there's a scarcity now. So from a leadership perspective, you see companies really collaborating across the life cycle because they know that they have to really drive outcomes for the government, who is their customer usually, but also for the major developers. Everybody is investing in technology now in the UAE. It used to be, you talked about meager margin. So construction is always a 4 or 5, 6%, a net margin business. So it was like the developers would say, please make us more sustainable and more efficient, but we're not going to invest in it. You're still going to make 4% margin. Yeah. And that's changed. So that collaboration has really changed. The governments are investing in the technologies from a leadership perspective. The developers, the general contractors, the builders, the operator owners, they're all investing and collaborating across the life cycle. So from a collaboration and leadership perspective, you see everything really coming together in a perfect storm now, from sustainable outcomes to productive outcomes to labor shortage. It's all coming together plus a huge amount of work that's to be done. So that's why we see a lot of the thought leadership coming from a lot of this region, a lot of the execution, a lot of the appetite for different technologies is coming from here.
We're still working with a very fragmented value chain, which means that the design process is procured separately from construction, which is procured separately from operation. And those interventions between parts of the process don't allow for collaboration, and they don't allow for investment across segments where you're not going to get a return from the investment you make. So that really is different here. And how has it always been like that, or is that something that the local governments have focused on, particularly in the last decade or so?
Even the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen it shift dramatically.
Yeah.
So this is something that really excites me, is that data and value across the whole real estate life cycle. So from capital planning to design to build to own or operate to smart buildings, smart community, smart city, command and control center. So how the evolution of data goes from macro to micro, and the end product is evolved using different AI programs across each of those parts of the life cycle. There wasn't really any products that were fully connected across the life cycle. Now you see the metaverse is a really big part of this. You see many companies that are doing the whole capital planning to design, to sales, marketing, to the construction, digital twin, how that data evolves across the life cycle. Just the last 3 or 4 years in really showing some results, it's starting to come together. And that's allowing a lot of the collaboration to happen between the entire life cycle also of the different key stakeholders.
And data is obviously central to that theme. And, a phrase that we see being used a lot across the industry these days is the golden thread of information that connects those various parts of the value chain. How does that manifest itself practically in this region? Is it simply through the technology, or is there some other means that connects companies to around that golden thread of information?
I think the technology is a key foundational piece of it, but it's a lot more than that. It's the collaboration, everything else that's happening across the life cycle. And the technology, when I say it's a foundational thing, this is where, like I said, you're depicting the entire life cycle and you're improving with up and coming new technologies across that life cycle. So you use something like a Procore for construction management, but it's taking inputs from the life cycle. It's providing outputs to the end product handover, right? So the whole collaboration with the platform supporting it, the collaboration that's happening is much more, let's say, vivid and much more connected. That data is much more correlated across the life cycle, and the product is being improved at each step of the way. So I see the technology, the collaboration, communication, these things are coming together very well to really assess that entire life cycle, how you can improve it at each step.
And we know that the technology and the data that technology uses plays a major role in all of this, but we mustn't forget the people. We talk a lot about human-centered design, human-centered change management, those kinds of things. Taking it back to that leadership point, in a technology and data-driven world today, what is the role of the leader in making sure that people remain at the center of our advances in technology and data?
Yeah, very interesting. So when Innova was created 4 years ago, there were 3 foundational pieces to it. The vision of our CEO, Abhishoy Azmi. It was people, technology, and sustainability were the 3 pillars of the company, actually. So from a leadership perspective, you have to be all in on these 2 or 3 practices, let's say so. And it's always going to be about the people, always about the people. So you can leverage technology to some degree. It's going to help, but the change management that you talked about, the hardest part of implementing any technology is the change management component. The technology is maybe 5 to 10% of the problem and concern, or the hurdles that you have. It's the change management of having done it this way for 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, especially in something traditional like construction, where the technology wasn't invested in much in the past. So leadership has to embrace and lead the way on changing the culture of the company to an AI and technology-centric, innovative spirit company. That's why we're called Innovo, because it's all about the innovation. The leadership has to embrace the technology, has to train, equip everybody within the organization. The younger generation coming in, we talked about this a little bit before, the younger generation coming in is going to expect that you're going to be very technology-driven and data-driven and have correlated data. So leadership has to really embrace the technology. Leadership has to help change the culture of the company to an innovative spirit culture instead of a traditional building culture. You're still building, but we like to think that it's now technology-led instead of technology-supported. It doesn't matter if it's banking, retail, construction. Technology is leading the way for this change in every industry, and that's what graduates and future workforce are going to be expecting. So leadership is here to drive that energy, drive that change within the organization, using AI and technology as one of the key, let's say, anchors to the company strategy.
Just going back to that people dimension again, and you mentioned that the new generation. So we're at a fascinating juncture in probably in human history at the moment, where we have the first generation of digital native people leaving university and joining the workforce. I think in property, we've already mentioned that tends to be quite a traditional approach still, probably in some markets more than others, but let's say generally property has an issue with embracing people with new skills and talents. How is Innovo going about making sure that next generation of digital natives are fully productive in the environment and feel welcome in the industry that traditionally has maybe done things a little slower and more measured?
I'll first give an example that scared me a little bit. My 13-year-old daughter, she came to me the other day and said, "Dad, your bio is not very good. It's not very good, so let me fix it for you." I said, "So how are you going to fix it?" She said, "First, I'm going to use ChatGPT, and then I'm going to use Google Humanizer so they can't tell I use ChatGPT. And then at the end, it's going to be a perfect product." So this is what this generation is so technology savvy, and they've grown up with it, and they're only 13 years old. So we like to, as new employees come in, there's an indoctrination, where it's all about technology and innovation, no matter what your function is. A lot of interns, we take a lot of interns in who are just coming out of university at all of our locations across the globe, and we want to really, they're using AI in their thesis and the end products in university, all of them, no matter what skill set they come from. So again, we have to make the culture a fun one, an innovative one, a participative one, so that when they come in, they can feel that vibe. If you come to the Innovo office, which anybody who wants to come, please come visit us. We'll give you a tour in Dubai Hills. We have an immersion room on the 3rd floor, which was digitally 3D printed. So it's a 3D printed where you go in and it's an immersive experience where it talks about Innovo and you're like inside of this technology. And then the layout of the floor is very much open space Google type of a layout of the floor, where you have exercise bikes and foosball, and everybody's in open spaces, collaborative spaces, meditation, gym, things like that. So we like to make it more of a techie, more of a modern, what they would be used to when they come into the workforce. This is how you can get some talent that would go to some of the large technology companies. You can get this talent, engineering talent in construction, if you show them that you're that tech savvy and they feel that culture when they come in.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And then again, some clear lessons to be learned from a very practical experience. What do you see as the opportunities to drive productivity improvements that go beyond the pure data and technology side of it? We talked earlier about modern methods of construction. Is that real in the Middle East? What are the opportunities there, and how are we realizing benefits from those kind of new approaches?
Yeah, so when we look at innovation, we look at tools, which would be like your construction management software, your digital twin, that you overlay that for clash detection and productivity, carbon reduction, things like that. But we're also looking at a lot of other technologies that are now becoming more accessible and more applicable, let's say. So we can start with modular construction. So a lot of companies have tried and failed in modular. Either the ecosystem wasn't there, the appetite wasn't there, supply chain. There's a lot of reasons that it didn't work, right? But when I look at modular construction, really from a safety perspective, you have less people on site. So because most of the offsite manufacturing is done in manufacturing plants and then brought into the site, it's a more safe environment, let's say, for the trades. The second is surety. Instead of having many raw materials coming and having come together at the same time, you're bringing, the schedule is much more clear because you're bringing the whole pod or volumetric construction with you. And then sustainability. Robotics are much more evolved in manufacturing than in construction, although they're starting to get there now. So you can have much less of a carbon footprint by creating these modular products offsite in a manufacturing environment. And we've still seen that a lot of that is going to come from Asia, China, and different locations. But we've seen also the evolution of the infrastructure here. A lot of the development companies, construction companies, DEWA government, other agencies are investing in modular here. That's given us more of an ecosystem and infrastructure. So yeah, the adoption is becoming much better, even for BIM, taking the pods and volumetric into the design. It's much more applicable now than it was before. So I see modular construction is really picking up, but it has a ways to go. 3D printing is now 3 stories, 4 stories. Villas are being 3D printed, rather quickly. And robotics is starting to happen more in construction, with concrete pouring, with tile laying, with a lot of different disciplines within construction. So modern methods are starting to take place. Systems and tools are really coming together, from foundational to innovation on top of them, like digital twin. And you see these other technologies like robotics, modular, and 3D printing are really becoming more applicable now.
I still go out to talk to companies today, and that they just don't understand the value of data. And obviously, AI as a tool on top of data is such a force multiplier for the industry. What is your experience around the use of AI, either at Innovo or more generally across the Middle East, and how is it being used in practical terms to change the industry?
So first of all, I'll say the question I'm asked in every event I go to is, will AI take my job? So I would say to the audience, AI will not take your job, not usually, but if you don't embrace AI, somebody who does embrace AI will probably take your job. So it's important that it's part of the culture and the fiber of all we do, not just as companies, but also as individuals. When you look at how this AI is being executed across that real estate lifecycle, it was pretty immature. And we've piloted a lot of different products in the construction digital twin that uses AI to, first you use a LiDAR scanner in practice, actually, to take a picture or a video of how you're building something each week. You compare that to the BIM 3D design. You compare that to the schedule, Primavera. And it tells you where you're going to have clashes 1 week from now, 2 weeks from now. So you eliminate that 10 to 12% of rework. Have we seen 10 to 12%? No. Productivity. We've seen 3-4%, but that's still really, really good. Yeah. Lowering your carbon footprint. So we're seeing these technologies. There's a lot of different digital twin, reality capture and digital twin technologies that are evolving quite quickly. You can't rely only on AI. These products are evolving and learning. I'm really excited about quantum computing. That's moving very quickly, especially here in the UAE, because that's going to be AI on steroids. Because you mentioned data. How much data you can inject into an AI model is how fast it learns. And quantum is going to give you hundreds times faster data injection into AI. So it'll learn much faster. But it's all about the quality of data too, isn't it? So AI is not going to operate without good quality data. It's going to have hallucinations all the time. It's going to give you improper results. If you don't have consistent data going into it, that's going to allow it to be more successful. So AI is the future, the present and the future. It needs humans in the loop, needs consistent data, as much data as you can give it. And there are a lot of use cases where it's being executed now.
And humans in the loop is a key phrase there. It always makes me smile when we have conversations about productivity through design and construction, and people automatically jump to site productivity. How do we build faster? Whereas my experience suggests there's an awful lot of productivity to be gained by speeding up the bureaucratic processes, the decision-making processes that companies go through. Again, in your experience, are you seeing real life applications of AI in terms of speeding up and making better decisions?
Absolutely. So when you look at the core of what you're doing, the core of what we're doing, building something, that whole collaboration lifecycle, it comes from, again, capital planning through design, through construction, through the end facility management, smart building piece. During the construction cycle, you're seeing a foundational product that we talked about, construction management system, that's using AI from a collaboration perspective. It's connected to your ERP, which is from a costing perspective, project costing, to your financials from a company perspective, which is the AI is embedded at each of these levels, correlating the data as it goes back and forth. And then you put something like a digital twin on top of it, and different IoT technologies on top of it to bring the real-time tracking, computer vision, LiDAR into the picture. So AI is correlating at each one of these and connecting at each one of these, let's say, levels. And it's much more holistic than it's ever been before. It's not perfect. There's no perfect solution right now that covers all of the innovation, the automation, the collaboration, but you're seeing it become much, much more connected.
We just done, Procore's just done some research that kind of indicates that up to 95% of construction companies globally are planning to use AI in some form in the next 12 months. Are there any tips or tricks that you can share with our audience about how to go about implementing AI?
I think the key is you don't want to cast a wide net necessarily, because the productivity you get from 90% of the areas is not going to be worth the investment because you've got them covered with other automation and innovation. Don't try to boil the ocean, I would say. So what we do is we're connected to a lot of VC, venture capital companies. They are kind of our research and development arm, where we can look at thousands of products, new upcoming startup products each year. But it first starts with, what is your business challenge? What is the gap that you're facing? Is it productivity? Is it planning? Is it collaboration? Is it your financial tracking? So you look at 2 or 3 or 4 different, let's say, areas that aren't covered with your current automation or innovation. And then you do like a proof of concept pilot on each of those areas. You look at 2 or 3 technologies. You don't want to create the stuff yourself really necessarily, because there's pretty much everything is out there now, because there's so much investment happening in the real estate and construction space. There's more startups in PropTech and Contech than there are in FinTech now. So the investment never was here before, but now it's like on steroids here. So there are going to be products, 2 or 3 or 4 or 100 products for every problem you might have that you're faced with. If you can use a product across as much of the life cycle as possible, like a Procore or something like that, you should, because all these modules are working very closely together. But you're going to have other gaps you're going to have to fill. So utilize your research and development to look at different products that can help you fill, and they're all going to almost all be AI-based products from a correlation perspective, from a data perspective. Look at 1 or 2 or 3 business processes that are a priority for you. Leverage AI for them externally in the operational space. At the same time, internally, you're creating a culture of innovation and AI through ChatGPT, Copilot, and things like that.
I think we've seen across the world that the adoption of AI through construction in particular has been the fastest technology adoption of any through the history of construction, and you've mentioned things like BIM and digital twin, and AI adoption is certainly outpacing those, which brings us to the question, why doesn't construction adopt these things faster? What are the real reasons why construction is traditionally seen as a bit of a laggard when it comes to adopting technology? What is your view on that?
Yeah, I think different technologies from project perspective that utilize AI, the change management is really important. So I'll give you an example. When we recently implemented a digital twin, which is an AI correlation engine, you have to have your quality team, your MEP team, your operations team. Everybody has to be on the same page. Then they have a regular job to do as it is. So saying, I'm going to inject this technology, they're like, what's it going to really do for me? Is it going to give me more productivity? No, right away, it's going to give me more work. So it's how you implement that technology, and in an industry that's as traditional, in an industry that's as traditional as construction, people are used to doing things a certain way. And if you give them extra work when they're already very, very stressed and stretched, they're going to resist it, either passively or just to your face. So you have to put the right change management process in place. You have to give them surge resources for the pilot. You can't give them 3 or 4 jobs to do at the same time. So I think it's companies that are very traditional, industries that are very traditional, like construction. You have to implement these technologies in a way that's non-threatening, that's going to show what's in it for them, what productivity they're going to get out of it, how their life is going to be made easier from it. You have to do more explaining and change management. But I'm starting to see a little bit more movement in traditional industries like construction. So there's hope.
I couldn't agree more. I think we're finally bracing the concept of change management, and it's one of the idiosyncrasies of construction that we manage change every day, but we're not very good at managing change on a business scale. But I think we're learning the lessons, and again, we're the best industry in the world in planning. So why not plan for change with the same level of veracity?
And from the leadership perspective, like you said, if the leadership is embracing the technology and incentivizing, even the most traditional of industries are going to be moving. And as you see, the labor force or the workforce coming in now is much more savvy. So your engineers are not the old school engineers that are used to doing it this way. The engineers are used to leveraging the technology, even in their curriculum in the university. Yep. They're leveraging technology as part of their course, right? So you will see slowly the workforce will change to very much technology centric. Right now, it's more about the sheer willpower of the leadership team, kind of incentivizing and showing what's in it for them to win over some of the old school people.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Roger, you mentioned sustainability a few times in there. We've got some pretty ambitious sustainability targets for the Middle East. We've got Vision 2030. We've got the UAE's Net Zero 2050. They set ambitious goals for the whole property industry. What is the role of technology in supporting those strategies? And is it about more than just counting carbon, or is that a key to it as well?
Yeah, the carbon calculation, the carbon footprint is an important component to have that baseline, because there will be debits, credits, rewards, punishments, financial incentives coming from the government, not just in 2030 and 2050, but even now. So winning a deal with the government, winning a bid proposal, there's a sustainability component to it. So a technology and sustainability component to it. So it's already affecting whether you win work or not. So technology, again, is at the forefront of not just calculating the carbon footprint, using the digital twin to lower your carbon footprint from a clash detection perspective, using IoT and different GPS technologies on buses, everything that you do, crane operation. So these technologies are all coming together to not just calculate your current footprint, but what percentage with sensor technology, IoT technology, with AI-based technology, what percentage you're able to lower. So technology is really at the forefront of the drive for sustainability. Process is a big part of it. Awareness is a big part of it. But technology is how you kind of measure, and it's kind of how you lower and attack that with electric vehicles, whether it be, there's so many different parts of technology that are coming together that are really the biggest catalyst, I think, is technology.
We haven't yet talked today about the operation of buildings so much. How does technology play a role in creating the intelligent infrastructure that we are going to have in buildings in the future? And I'll give you a personal experience. I spent some time at NEOM working on the line, which is just a fantastic project. We talked about the line being the world's first cognitive city. So taking the smart city approach and going beyond that. In that context, how do you see the future playing out in terms of the technology and the role it will play in cities towards this cognitive space as opposed to a smart space?
It's so exciting what's happening right now. So AI-based technologies on the smart building, smart community command and control center, pulling all these communities together, very intuitive programs. There's a product called Passive Logic, which is a smart building technology that's going to really challenge the Johnson Controls, the Honeywells, and all these other companies, because it's AI-based, it's open API, so it connects to anything quite well. So it's about the customer again. So it's about the customer experience. It's about the human experience. Customers are expecting a lot more in that end product. We talked about the whole life cycle of improving that product using the data, macro to micro data, the end result being that smart community, that cognitive, that thinking community, that connected community. That's the end result. So with that in mind, we're seeing advancements across the whole simulations being run across the entire life cycle of the planning to design, to build, all the way operate and own, and then that cognitive result. So technology, again, is at the forefront of this. So it's the technology that's and the AI sensor technology that's able to predict what you want before you know it in the final community, right? To make you more secure. This is the end result, and it's here now. It's not something that's in the future, where the apartment that you live in really gets to know you. It's not just about Siri or Alexa or something like that. It really gets to know you and your habits and your energy usage and everything about you. And it wants to make your life more comfortable. So yeah, it's really, the technology is really advancing in this space that's allowing us to really be safer, more efficient, energy efficient. It's exciting.
Yeah.
This is what we love, the end user technology, the end smart technology.
And I think we can all sense your enthusiasm for that future. What personally are you most looking forward to, living in an environment which goes beyond smart, that an environment that gets to know you and your habits? What does that mean for Roger living in 10 years' time?
Well, I mean, life is so easy in Dubai anyway. It's so safe, secure, and easy here. But when you think globally about a lot of the problems that different communities and countries have, that can be solved by this smart building technology, or this evolving technology that can help take better care of us. It's from a from a safety perspective, from a medical emergency perspective, from a quality of life perspective. So I'm looking forward to that. Something that's so intuitive, that we all have enough work to do. We all have, jobs where we're quite involved. We all would like to just relax sometimes and have an environment that's very much in tune with us. So this is what I'm looking forward to: something safe, secure, something that really helps humanity, helps society, helps people, brings people together. This is what I'm looking forward to.
We're going into what we call our rapid fire round now. So these are short, sharp questions, not too much thinking time. So we'll start off with data centers. Obviously, the growth of data centers is enormous around the world. I saw a report recently that said that within the next 5 years, data centers will contribute 10% of the total construction volume around the world, which is just staggering. What is the one key trend you see shaping the next wave of data center development in this region?
We could talk about data center for an hour, couldn't we? Because it's huge, right?
Yeah.
So in this region especially, but globally, the need for data computing power with AI and other technologies is huge. And you talked about the cognitive community. You talked about the smart community, smart building. All of that data that's being processed through the life cycle, and then in the end user environment, it needs to be processed somewhere. And data centers are it. And what I'm seeing, or what we're seeing is, and with Anovo, we're actually building data centers too, from a construction as well as a modular mobile. I'm seeing a move towards these modular mobile data centers. Yeah, you still need the brick and mortar hyperscale data centers, but moving this computing power to the edge of wherever you are, whether it be Atlantis, the Palm has a huge data center inside of it, whether it be you're building and constructing something. It's the mobile footprint of processing that data wherever you are at the moment, and then you can move it to another location. So it's much more mobile, and the usage, there's so many usages, from crypto mining to processing data on the edge of construction and development, to operating and maintaining a facility that you have, to AI starter kits. So companies are really looking at how they want to execute AI internally. So the big trend I see is there's so much data to be processed in real time that data centers there's going to be a huge need for data centers, and not just super data centers, hyperscale data centers, but very modular, stackable, mobile data centers where you can increase and decrease your compute power whenever you need it.
I think that's a really relevant point. I think we're seeing the transformation of data centers from being warehouse type structures that just contain racks of computers to being really sophisticated buildings. And going forward, the convergence of data centers with other types of environment, particularly hospitals, education environments, where that data, as you say, needs to be processed at the point of use. I think it's a fascinating part of the industry going forward. Next one, what is, in your view, what is the most underestimated challenge in delivering complex infrastructure?
So it's never really about the concrete or steel or even technology, because you're planning for those things with change management. It's usually about the stakeholders, the people, and the data, consistent data across that life cycle. Those are the two things that can really slow your project down, but they're not going to be in your Primavera or your project plan, right? Whatever you're using for planning, your construction management system. They're not going to be planned for in the schedule of work, the delays you have. The miscommunications that you have, not being on the same page from roles, responsibilities, and So I would say it's not really about the technology. It's not really about the materials and things like that, or even the project plan. it's about people being aligned. It's about data being aligned.
Couldn't agree more. People are the problem. People are also the solution.
Yes.
We talked about leaders quite a bit on this episode, but going back to leaders, I think we've proven that they're so key for the future of the industry. What is the one skill that you would say construction and property leaders need to have to take this industry forward in the next 5 years?
I mean, there's vision, that you need vision and envisioning what what the environment's going to look like. And there's tech savviness is really important, I would say. But I think it's always, again, it's coming back to people. So understanding what your people, your teams, understanding what they need, whether it be technology, whether it be compassion, whether it be, there's a lot of different things. So a good leader is going to embrace technology and other things as tools in their toolbox, let's say. But still, it's old-fashioned people centricity, understanding people. I think that this is, to me, still the most important skill. And some of the leaders who are growing up now are so used to technology that I think that they may not have some of those skills that we would have had before, because we didn't rely on technology. We relied on people and how we were interacting with people. So I think it's always going to be about the people and being empathetic and really understanding what the people need and being there for them.
Yeah, and I think that's again we're seeing that's one of the ways in which we can manage this clash of cultures between the current construction generation and the next generation, is that those people skills, and using the older generation to do the mentoring and coaching that teaches the younger generation to apply their skills in a certain way, a people-centered way. I think that's really important. The big question: what excites you most about the future of PropTech?
I mean, this is where it's at. This is where the investment is. We're all of us who are in this industry now, and in technology, we're at the right place at the right time, where the sky is the limit. So what really excites me is the adoption, the technologies. Everybody's collaborating well together. There are several technologies that excite me, like I said, quantum computing, but those are just tools, right? So the collaboration really excites me, from government to developer to builder to designer to operator owner to end user. Everybody's really coming on the same page, and we're connecting that data across the life cycle, improving across the life cycle. I keep coming back to that. But I'm really, really excited about the collaboration and connection and investment in our industry.
I think we mentioned in the introduction that was clearly a passion of yours, and I think it's come through the whole way. And I commend you for that. I think I play a trick sometimes where I ask people what BIM is. And the routine answer you get is that it's a design tool or it's a modeling tool or something. For me, BIM is a collaboration environment. It allows people to work together on the same topics at the same time. And I think that's the best thing that you can say about BIM and similar technologies.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't.
We have a game that we like to play at the end of these podcasts which we call Kaizen. So it's more about reflections on what are those incremental improvements that we can make. So first question for you: what are you doing to improve yourself or your performance by 1%?
Yeah, the easy answer would be I'm keeping abreast of technology, but that's not really what my focus is, right? So that's, again, a tool, and those are things we're using. So for me, it's building my resilience and my ability to lead and be empathetic. Each day, I try to spend at least 30 minutes with reflection, self-reflection, and think about, in this case, I could have been more resilient. I could have been stronger. I could have been more supportive. So for me, it's growing myself as a person and a leader so I can be there for the people who I want to take care of, and the teams, family, things like that. So personally, I want to really grow my resilience and my ability to lead and my ability to be compassionate and these things.
I love that. And again, isn't that a great reflection of how the industry is changing, that you get a leader talking in that way rather than, the traditional people that we probably grew up with when we came into the industry. So yes, I love that answer. Your company, what are you doing to help improve your company by 1%?
Well, I mean, there I would go with technology. My role as CTO is to look at innovation and technology and improve the company. So even more so than that productivity on the project, it's the culture of the company. So if we can improve the culture of the company where people are leveraging technology, have that innovation mindset, feel inclusive environment, where we're all in common goals and, we're all working together to co-innovate, let's say. This is really what my focus is within the company, is kind of creating that culture of innovation. And we try to, with several different events, several different, introductions of technology. Even yesterday, we were training 100 people across the company with a webinar on Copilot. So how can they be more productive? How can it make their lives easier? So for me, it's working on the culture of the company and installing that innovation culture.
And I think that continuous education is a part of it as well. Again, I've lived in an industry that has training interventions, which means you don't do anything for 3 years and then you're sent on a week's course somewhere. I think we've got to embrace more about that continuing education and just take those opportunities where we start to learn from everything we do, probably on a more informal basis than we have done historically. And last of all, looking at the industry, what would you do today to improve the industry by 1%?
Collaboration is the thing, right? So we're working with other construction companies like never before to collaborate. Yes, we're competitors, but one company might be advancing on robotics, while we're advancing on digital twin. So I see that collaboration from government to the whole life cycle. This podcast, events that are happening across the industry where you come together and you really honestly talk about what's working for you, what's not working for you. And this is really helping our industry get on the same page and collaborate well together. Dogs are getting along well with cats, where you used to be fighting for that deal or that margin. Now you're sharing information like you never have before, even from the CEO level. We have other CEOs come into our company, even construction CEOs, competitors, and the CEOs like, let's show them what we're doing with technology. Let's give them some advice on digital transformation. So it's really the collaboration. I want to continue to collaborate and help wherever I can, because again, like I said at the beginning, technology is really going a long ways and one of the main drivers to help your company, your customer, your community, and the planet from a sustainability perspective, lowering carbon footprint. So it's really just the right thing to do now, is to collaborate for the success of everybody.
I love that. I think that's the t-shirt slogan right there. It's just the right thing to do. And very, very strong sentiment to finish on. Roger, thank you for your time today. I think
such a pleasure.
I've certainly learned a lot from your perspectives, particularly around how the Middle East is doing things maybe slightly differently from the rest of the world. And it sounds like they're a step ahead in lots of ways as well. And it's a fascinating region to work in. And thank you for your insights on both the region and also what the work that Innovo and yourself are doing. So our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We love doing these episodes of Tech Horizons. So please subscribe, share, do all of those things to spread the word, but also give us your feedback. We love to hear from you on the kinds of things that you want to hear about next and into the future, and the kind of people that you want us to talk to. Until next time, thank you again, Roger. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you all again soon.